All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another market close, guys. We are done officially. I really need to get a new light, yo. I'm going to get it over the weekend. It is so weird with this light not being there. It just feels like dark in this room, or like someone said last night, we're at an alley place or something. But we're back. Another market close, ending out the week, March 15th. This is a big week. Or a big day because options are expiring across the board. The reason why I found out today is it's the third, or it's the second Friday of the first quarter, of the end of the last month of the first quarter. so that's why it's such a big day for options expiration. And obviously we've seen some volatility today across all the different assets, including crypto. But in terms of crypto, we've actually got a little bit of volatility to the upside. Bitcoin right now currently is at 69,279. It was just at 70,000 like 7 minutes ago, and it came back down to 69. But we saw the retracement back to 70. It was at 67 a couple of hours ago, and now it's at 70K. So we're seeing obviously a little bit of a reversal. I thought that the crypto drawdown was a bit manipulated, and I'll share my thoughts on that. So we got to talk about that. Palantir's down 30%. We'll discuss that. Tesla having a rebound. I found out why Tesla's green. We didn't see this in the morning, but they have a bit of a subsidy coming from India, so that's very important. We'll discuss that. And then we got money market funds that we also have to discuss today on the market close. Thank you, everybody, for being with me here today. Let's get started. Joshua, Mario, Shintoki, Philip, Yeti, Mark, Ray, Jason, Chris, earnings calls, highlights. I love that name. That's amazing. Amit, do you think Bitcoin will rise if we get a hawkish Fed next week? Yeah, I think nothing's really stopping Bitcoin right now. Interest rates going down will be good for Bitcoin, but even if they stay higher, global liquidity will eventually increase. And I just don't think anything's really stopping Bitcoin at this point. But yeah, maybe it takes it down a little bit. But as we see today, it goes up 3,000 points in like 2 hours. I mean, there is a lot of volatility and demand waiting there. Chana, what's up? Hey, Amit, thought you forgot about us. Nope, I'm here as always on the market close. Castorol, Kite, Shay, Queso, JD, Marcin. It's market close, not open. Yo, I always get it wrong for some reason. And it's Friday. I guess it's Friday and it's the end of the day, and I tend to get it wrong when it comes to that. Okay, let's get Tom Lee on the channel. He's not on the channel yet, but he's on CNBC. Let's see what he has to say. We have him here right now on CNBC. He's in a back of a taxi in Mexico City, and he's doing a segment here. So let's get his thoughts on what we've got going on, and then we'll keep going from there. Now, one quick stat before I show Tom Lee. Money market funds, we got a record 6.1 trillion, folks. 6.1 trillion. The reason we have 6.1 trillion, as you can see right here, it increased by 31 billion. 31 billion. $31 billion. Shay said I sold my PayPal. All right, so we got someone taking some profits on PayPal. This is the third consecutive week money market funds have gone up. And now you got 6.1 trillion. Last week it was 49 billion. The week before that it was 16 billion. So more money continues to get on the sidelines. That money is staying on the sidelines probably for a reason. And the reason, at least, to the people on the sidelines, is that they are relatively scared about what's going to happen, in the next coming weeks with the market. So let's see what Tom Lee has to say and his thoughts on everything going on.
Selling off again today and dragging the S&P 500 and NASDAQ lower for a third straight day.
Okay, why aren't you hearing? Oh, I didn't share the sound. I gotta share the sound.
Our next guest. Case to buy the dip. Let's bring in Fund Strats, Tom Lee. Tom, it's good to catch up with you here. Obviously, it's a bull market. Buying the dips generates to make sense. It's certainly been rewarded.
Dude, that's so weird. I don't know why you guys aren't hearing this. I was trying to do it from my other screen. I'm just gonna open it up on my Mac. That is so weird. Why is it? It usually doesn't do that. All right, here we go. Let's do it this way. This is way better. Tried to be efficient with 2 screens here, but that didn't work. Let me pull this up right here. This will be much easier to get what we need to get done. All right, so here we go. Here is Tom Lee actually talking about the markets. Yeah, here it is. It'll be better here.
It's good to catch up.
Yo, is it not playing on my side? This is interesting. This might be a YouTube thing, guys. This might be a YouTube. Hold on. Let me. This might be and I'll tell you why I think it's a YouTube thing. All right. So let me play this.
Up with you here. Obviously,
let's see.
It's
give me 1 second.
Buying the dips generally tends to make sense. It's certainly been rewarded in the last several months. But it's almost like we haven't hardly had much of a dip to speak of. You know, you had these little wobbles lower, another one right now.
Okay, it works.
Are you confident that they're going to stay so shallow?
That's a great question, Michael. I think one of the reasons these dips have been shallow is that measures of investor leverage, whether it's margin debt, which is still below July 2023 levels, or cash on the sidelines, which hit a record 6.1 trillion last week, or this past week, shows you that investors are still uncomfortably underinvested, and therefore these dips are opportunities to add. I've been traveling in Latin America for the past week, meeting with a lot of pension funds, and we're getting the sense that these investors are waiting for a dip. So it's
Okay, that might be YouTube.
as soon as you get some sort of wobble like today, I think these are quickly met by buying.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been the case. Although, how do you, I guess, jive that with the fact that you've seen some of the other indicators of positioning and investor sentiment, whether it's investment advisors or retail investors or call option volumes, seeming like at least things have gotten a little bit extended?
To an extent, those are extended because, prime brokerage data really tends to capture the TMT hedge fund positioning, which does look extended. And AAII tends to reflect bullish sentiment, but it doesn't necessarily reflect actual positioning, which, we can tell by margin debt still quite low. And other measures don't necessarily capture what private bank and wealthy individuals and households are doing, which, when we hear from our wealth managers, still have a very conservative bias for their clients. So I think that we're not really as exhausted in terms of positioning or even sentiment as we were in October 2021.
Now, I know, Tom, that you feel as if there's a potentially long-lasting outperformance cycle possible in smaller stocks. Been a lot of false starts in this direction. Been some pressure on the Russell 2000 and other small cap measures with rates going higher. What sets the scene for you to say that small caps will start to work on a relative basis?
Well, it is a constellation of factors, Michael, that are really coming together for the first time. We're emerging from a pretty terrible inflation cycle that was, crushing for smaller companies, especially their ability to raise prices relative to larger companies. And it's coming at a time when the Fed is about to make a pretty abrupt move to being supportive of the business cycle instead of fighting inflation. And on a valuation side, small caps are trading at 44% of the price to book of large caps. That's exactly where we were in 1999, and that was the launch point for 12 years of outperformance. So I think when investors start to allocate to stocks and the Fed starts to be visibly cutting, I think the Fed is not clear when they start, but when they start, I think it's going to be a big tailwind for small caps.
Now, the relative valuation you mentioned going back to 1999 or thereabouts absolutely seems to be the case. The length of underperformance has been something similar. But if I look back at that period, after 2000, the peak in the market, a lot of that outperformance by small caps came because large cap growth just imploded. I mean, you just did see devastation in some of the largest stocks. Now, obviously, small caps held up better and then went up after the market low in the early 2000s. But I assume you're not suggesting that that's what we're in for.
That's right. I think one of the principal differences, is that it's the starting point. The S&P large cap is roughly 15 times X the Mag 7. The Russell 2000, if you look at the profitable companies there, have multiples more like 12 times. And the non-profitable small caps in the Russell actually have leverage either to economic growth or to risk premium declines. So you have like sort of the double recipe within the small cap index of quality companies having multiple expansion, but also sort of risk appetite growing, and allows, whether it's the biotechs or some of the regional banks, which will have future growth, but actually don't really earn money right now.
All right. Yeah, we'll see if all that can coalesce. Tom, appreciate the time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So this is where Tom Lee is right now. There's the guy. We got him there. He's in the back of a car. So cool, dude. One of the hardest working guys in the business. Yeah, so I mean, look, Tom's bullish. He believes that small caps eventually will rally. It's going to take some time. Again, these money market funds are, I would say, at least concerning to say the least when it comes to money that's going on the side. 6.1 trillion. The entire thesis was this year that this would come off the sidelines eventually into the market, and maybe some of it has when we did see some sequential decreases, but it's starting to hit records. And those records make you think maybe people are starting to gear up for a little bit of a pullback. Now, granted, when it hit 5 trillion or 5.6 trillion or 5.9 trillion, you could say the same, and the market's just done well since then. So overall, it seems like liquidity is starting to enter into the markets as the market goes up, and enter into money market funds as people kind of try to protect their money as well. So that's what we have right now in the broader equity markets and for money market funds. Philip says, I think Tom is amidst a secret interview. It's not Tom. I can guarantee that. I can also say the interview is confirmed. I had a meeting with the person's chief of communication like 2 days ago on Wednesday. It's not Michael Saylor, but I'm going to try to get him, dude. I'm going to try to spam his PR team and be like, yo, let's do it. Dude, I would love to pick this guy's brain. Just hearing him talk philosophically about Bitcoin is so exciting. Whether you agree or disagree with him, the dude is like, he makes a hell of an argument, and he understands business so well. Because I mean, Saylor's been in business for a very long time. He's been very successful in business, and for him to make, like, imagine you were an employee at MicroStrategy and you got MicroStrategy stock at like 2018, right? Within 2 years, your stock packages exploded. MicroStrategy went from like 100 to 800 because the business wasn't a business intelligence company anymore. That's what they sell, business intelligence software. They're growing 3% year over year, right? $100 million a quarter. It's not that exciting. It became a Bitcoin company, and they just hold a crap ton of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So, I mean, if you work for MicroStrategy and you didn't expect the company to really explode, maybe you just took the job because you couldn't get hired at a better tech company. I mean, you got rich. So I think the guy is very, very smart, and I would just love to talk to him about, how he got the way he is. He invested in big tech in 2010, by the way. Amazon. He wrote a book. I forgot the name of the book, but he wrote a book basically saying that these networks that create billions of people on top of them, Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc., they're going to take over the world. And so he invested, and he made a crap ton of money off big tech when big tech was not the sexy investment in 2010. Right now, it makes sense, but back then, everyone thought these companies were insane and they were going to go bankrupt. And now he thinks of Bitcoin as kind of a 8 billion person network. And so he thinks of it as the ultimate network, which is kind of why the thesis is the same as when he invested in the FANG stocks back in 2010. The mobile wave. Yes, the mobile wave. That's what it is. All right. Friday, March 15th, 4 p.m. Get ready to close your ears if you need to, because the market is now closed. All right, I'll get to the Tesla India news in just 1 second. Let's just see how some of these equities did, and then we'll talk about Tesla. Tesla up today, 163. We'll talk about why. Bitcoin, 68,000. Ethereum, 3,600. Open Door, we haven't looked at that one in a while, up 1.52%. SoFi, so if I had my cash secured puts, I would have been safe, guys. I would have been safe. It ends at 703, but the whole day today, I would have been nervous thinking I would have had to buy those damn shares under 7 because it went to 691 at one point. So it recovers above 7, but it's at the low 7, which is crazy. We've got Disney right here, 112, Coinbase 242, AMD 191, Meta at 484, Roblox 39.24. This one is down from like 45ish, I think, a couple weeks ago. MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy up 6% on the day. So all the crypto stocks kind of took a little bit of a reversal here. Let me pull this up right now. So we have Coinbase up 3%. CleanSpark, wow, up 10%. I didn't even see that. I did not see CleanSpark up 10%. Cypher up 11%, Marathon up 0.31%, Ethereum up a little bit, and well, Ethereum down, but recovering a little bit from the lows. And Robinhood as well maintained 18.15. Dude, Robinhood maintaining 18 was to me just so important and so special for Robinhood because that's the second day since 2021 that it's closed above $18. Which is really, really important, dude. I mean, like that's the market signaling that they're ready to give this stock a new base. It did fall to the low 17.7s. Obviously, when Bitcoin falls, Robinhood follows it. And Bitcoin didn't even fully recover, by the way. Bitcoin 68.65. I mean, it has a bit of a recovery, but still it's down from 73, which it was at last night. And Robinhood still was able to maintain some momentum, even with Bitcoin falling a decent amount overnight. So that's what you got on Robinhood. In terms of the Max 7, we have Apple. Basically flat on the day. Microsoft down 2% on the day. Meta down 2% on the day. Google down 1.5%. Amazon down 2.4%. Okay, so all of Max 7 took a little bit of a hit. Nvidia basically flat, down 0.12%. And then Tesla, out of all the Max 7, is the only one that was green today. The only one that was green today. 18 close on Hood is phenomenal. Yeah, dude, it is incredible. It's very good. And I thought it was going to be a little tough today because, you know, Robinhood it's not easy for that one to have that much demand side pressure. But it's what I said yesterday. I was like staring at the chart yesterday, and every time it fell at 17.8, 17.9, it just rebounded to 18 really quickly, like within 5 or 10 minutes. And that to me showed that there are plenty of buy side orders with certain limits at 1784, 1793. And as soon as they got hit, it just protected, it created a floor to the stock from falling lower. And people want the shares. That Q2 or that February number made it really easy for people to understand what's going on. And then Bernstein with the coverage at $30. That was also really important. Netflix right now at 606 and Google again down 1.5%. Obviously, Palantir took a bit of a beating today. I bought like 10 shares of Palantir, 23.48, down 4%. Palantir didn't fall for any reason other than the macro took a hit. So some of these stocks really did get not even crushed today. I mean, they're down 4%. They're down 4%. But what was exciting is that Palantir 27.50. You know, we saw what levels it can get to. I think this is a healthy pullback probably for Palantir. I mean, Palantir being at $29, $30 right now probably would not be healthy. So continuing to consolidate in the 22 to 26 range. And I think that'll be important for Palantir before it makes the next leg up, hopefully after Q1 earnings. Let's talk about Tesla. So Tesla got some really interesting news this morning that we didn't get a chance to see. India is going to lower the EV import tax to Tesla if they invest $500 million. That is the core news. Thoughts on NVIDIA going up this Monday? I'm actually going to do Chip Chat, the podcast to do with my boy Jose, where we talk about semiconductors on Sunday night. Usually we do it on Friday, but he's driving this week. So we're going to do it on Sunday night, and we're going to talk about the NVIDIA conference. So make sure Sunday night, like 7 p.m., you tune in because we will discuss everything going on with NVIDIA's GTC conference. But in general, I think NVIDIA is going to announce some good shit, and the stocks can go up. Those are my thoughts. I think people are going to be excited for the conference. Okay, so in a big win for Elon Musk's Tesla, India to lower EV import if $500 million is invested. So let's read a little bit from here. The policy is a big win for Tesla as it's in line with what the company had been lobbying for in New Delhi. Sources say last July that the car maker had offered to build a factory, but in the meantime wanted a cut in import taxes that CEO Elon Musk said were among the highest in the world. For years, Musk has tried to enter the Indian market, but New Delhi wasn't keen unless he committed to local manufacturing. Tesla officials visited India several times in recent months, which is true. We saw him meet with the Indian Prime Minister and one of the VPs of manufacturing, with Musk also meeting Prime Minister Modi last year. We invite global companies to come to India. I'm confident India will become a global hub for EV manufacturing, and this will create jobs and improve trade, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says. Goyal said the move will benefit consumers who get EVs at a cheaper price while also helping the company.
We want to remember women that took that first step.
The girls like hearing the story about Rosa Parks.
Dude, why? These ads just come out of nowhere. You guys heard that, right? These ads come out of nowhere. All I hear is, we want to celebrate women. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But like, I'm trying to read about Tesla. Let me pull this up again. You guys heard that, right? That wasn't just me. I was like, what is that? I hate when they don't show you where the ad is. I tried to cancel out. This website. So this is IndianExpress.com. These guys have so many ads. It's actually ridiculous. All right. I'm going to try to read the last paragraph I was at. But under the new policy, which is effective immediately, EV imports at a lower tax rate will be allowed for a maximum of 5 years. And the total number will be capped at 8,000 a year. That's really damn good for Tesla. The duty foregone by the government on imported EVs would be limited to the investment made by the company or close to 800 million. So basically they're like, hey, Tesla, put up 500 million and you're going to have a really, really easy time getting your margins to increase in India because we're not going to tax we're not going to tax the crap out of you, which is good. Very, very good. I mean, that's a good thing to do. And that's obviously really good for Elon. Now, the stock didn't really move on that news today. I mean, it's up barely, but it is green. It's not another red day. So 163.57. It was 161 yesterday. So up 0.66% right now, which is good. Tesla needed something new to come out. Now, is this news going to be enough to stop it from falling into the bottoming out portion that a lot of people see at that 145 level? Maybe. I mean, probably not. But in general, India seems to be the economy, or the part of the economy, global economy, that everyone's going after. 1.3 billion people. Not all of them are going to buy a Tesla. Not all of them are going to buy an iPhone. But a lot of them are modernizing. A lot of them are developing. There's a lot of internet access that's coming. I'm going to India in October for the first time in 5 years. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it's changed. And people, people are ready to spend money, but they need to have the products and services that are out there in order for them to spend money on. And also the development process is part of how companies establish their moat. So for example, if like, this is not correct, but let's say there's not enough streaming services in India. There's more than enough streaming services, especially local ones. If Amazon Prime could be the first streaming service for, the people that make a very insignificant amount of money, so they don't have a lot of disposable income to, buy streaming services. And if Amazon gives it to them for free and just waits 5 years until they finally ask for a subscription, and then you have 300 people out of 1.3 billion that are using Amazon Prime, you're gonna, which is what Amazon did, since 2010, where they kept losing money and then eventually they monetized. That's a good thing. So I don't think companies are afraid to lose money in India. They just want to make sure that if you listen to music, you go to Spotify. If you want something to watch, you immediately go to Netflix, right? And YouTube has done this really well. I mean, India and YouTube is 450 million users. YouTube has 2.5 billion. So 25% of India's users are basically in India. And India is a very exciting market for them. But whoever can control these people first are eventually going to be able to monetize those people as well. Going to need the $25,000 car there. Yeah, the problem with India, and from my anecdotal experience, is that the driving is it's a paradox, because the driving is so complex. I mean, there are literally, we were on a highway, on a highway where you can only go one way, right? And there's another lane that's blocked off by something where people go the other way. There were people going the same way while we were going this way and just swerving while, it's insanity. There's horses, there's cows, there's rickshaws. I mean, obviously there's a billion people, a small country, or not as big of a country as the United States. So it's crowded. So a Tesla being able to, forget FSD, but a Tesla even being able to, maneuver. If you look at some of the Indian cars, like Tata cars, they're very, very small and compressed because there's not that much space. So I don't know exactly how they would enter the market, but it would have to be some type of compact vehicle. Otherwise, I don't know if they can effectively scale in India. It's going to be hard. Amit, are you ready with cash to buy more Palantir? And what would you do if it drops to 16 or more? Yeah, and I would start selling other things I have if it gets to 16. I mean, I'm buying more Palantir. Now, 16 is going to be hard, dude. If we get to 20, I think that's reasonable. If the market takes a pullback, I don't think the market's taking that deep of a pullback. But if it gets to 16, yeah, got some money and I'll start selling some other stuff. We'll buy more Palantir, dude. 16 basically means Q1 earnings didn't happen, which we saw the market's response to Q1 earnings. I mean, Q1 earnings happen. And by the way, if it gets to 16, it's not institution selling, it's retail. That's paper handing, because the toots are not selling at this point. Not with the upgrades we're getting, and definitely not with the volume we saw after earnings. They don't buy it just to sell it at a loss after buying it at 19 or 20 bucks, right? Unless something's breaking in the economy. I think the toots are on board. I think a lot of toots are going to get in at 16, which is why it's going to be harder to buy it at 16, because probably they're going to start getting it at 18, 19, 20, even 21 if we get that low. So we'll see if we get there. Let's get a update on NVIDIA as well. Obviously, we have the GTX event soon. So let's see what might happen on Monday for NVIDIA. Here we go.
Next big test for NVIDIA actually kicks off next week on Monday at the NVIDIA GTC conference. Christina Partsinevelos joins us now with 3 things to watch. So what should we be expecting ahead of this?
Well, I'll be there. So the first thing is going to be any update on their next architecture for a new AI chip, the Blackwell, so the B100. We'll want to know specs, how is the memory content? If the memory content surpasses AMD's latest chip, then that's going to be a negative for AMD. Then we'll also want to know maybe, some details on the average selling price, because that'll affect margins. Some rumors that maybe it'll be about 30% higher than the H100. If that's the case, good news for margins, but may depress demand a little bit. The second major point is just this adoption across enterprise. We've seen this with the CapEx of the spending of the big players like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, et cetera, but there's all the other facets of the market that still have yet to implement their own large language models. So we should expect some more commentary about that, as well as maybe some partnerships. There's been some talk. Micron alluded to something. Oracle alluded to something.
Yes.
So you'll see the derivatives of that event move in unison as well. And then last but not least, inferencing. Inferencing is the second part of a large language model. You shoot the training in and then use the training data to answer queries. And on the earnings call, Jensen Huang, the CEO, said that 40% of data center revenue actually came from inferencing. And most people were a little surprised by that number because NVIDIA has been so well known for training, and the concern was they're going to lose that market share to an AMD or others for the inferencing. And so I'm sure he will talk about this being the next big driver for demand, and then how that maybe will result in an update to their total addressable market, which is at 1 trillion, crazy number. But yeah, I mean, you look at it. What is it? 5 years ago, the market cap was 100 billion, and now it's 2.3 trillion, or a little bit more than that. It's incredible.
Those numbers are pretty astronomical. It almost it feels like the the FOMO trade. I mean, Brenda, what would you want to hear from NVIDIA next week that might entice you to buy a little bit more, get back in? I know you just trimmed some of those profits, but is there something that you could hear that, oh my gosh, I can't risk not being in?
Yeah, well, I say we're still in for sure. We've just taken a little bit off the top, recognizing just how much how much of a move we've seen. I personally don't know if there's anything we could hear that we haven't already. I mean, Jensen Huang does a pretty good job on the conference calls talking about this enormous market they have, how every data center needs to be updated eventually, and how they're going to touch all different kinds of businesses. They do have pretty big concentration in revenue right now in terms of customer concentration with the Microsofts and the Metas of the world. So I guess hearing more about how that's going to broaden out potentially in the shorter term could be good news in terms of potential risk from those customers next year not spending quite as much as they spent this year. But outside of that, I don't know if there's really anything new that would change our mind. I mean, still feel very positive about the company and their positioning, but would have to be a lot to really get us to step in to buy more.
What about you? Or if you we get more details from the Oracle partnership that was sort of teased out, but we don't know that much about. Would you be interested there and some of the tertiary players?
I would be interested there, but I'd also be interested in his take on the customers, their key customers that Brenda mentioned, who are so aggressively looking for other solutions. Right? With Taiwan Semi, with ASML providing their most advanced technology to allow the competition to blossom and bloom. Nobody wants to be that dependent on NVIDIA as a sole source at very high prices. So I want to know how he's thinking about that, and if he's going to lower prices, for his chips, so that you don't have this massive rush for the door, which is building. I mean, every large tech company's come out and said, we're building our own chips, we're designing our own chips, and ASML is the toolbox for that, and Intel Foundries. So how are you going to compete with that burgeoning threat? So that's what I'd like to know.
Okay, that's a good one.
I think that conference is going to be interesting. I think I should stream it live on the channel on Monday. Definitely something we should watch, and we'll see how the market reacts to it. NVIDIA has a way to really make you never doubt them. And so I expect that this event, they will disclose some stuff or show some stuff that makes people be like, holy crap, how do I not have NVIDIA? I mean, again, everything in generative AI comes down to those GPUs, and I know Google and Amazon and Microsoft are working on making their own chip. It's like, dude, if maybe you will, I mean, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we'll see, but it's not happening anytime soon. Not anytime soon. Okay, we got a new ad for Robinhood. So let's look at that. That's on Twitter. Bayray said we have a new ad for Robinhood. We offer the lowest cost to trade crypto on average. Here's the ad.
Robinhood Crypto. Get the most Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin for your money. And it's Robinhood Crypto for the win, where you can get the most crypto for your money.
It's a funny ad, I guess. It's not that. Look, it's a jokey kind of cartoony ad. If you're, this is aimed at the Doge Shiba Inu people, dude. They're probably spamming the crap out of those people on Instagram, showing them they could buy it for free or buy it for low cost. So, yeah, there you go. That's It's a funny ad, not a crazy ad. It's not a type of ad that I would see and be like, oh my God, I need to get Robinhood. But that's me. I'm not into buying those random cryptos, but a lot of people are, especially in the EU. Robinhood has a ton of these in the EU, so it's obviously tailored towards a different demographic. So there we go on Robinhood. In terms of Bayray says, would you sell Robinhood for Palantir? Not really, dude, because like Robinhood's going to the fucking moon this year. Like Palantir has already kind of gone to the moon, in my opinion. Robinhood right now 1816. Palantir is up 45% year to date. You got to remember that. So if there's an astronomical dip, I will get interested in it. But if Robinhood's still at this level, and Robinhood doesn't take a dip, then I'm going to find other things to sell, like a PayPal or like a SoFi, right? And get out of some of those positions, and buy more Palantir. But I wouldn't be selling Robinhood for that. That's just that one wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to do. Or I would just take some cash that I have on the sidelines, right, and dump it into Palantir. So that would make more sense. Amit, are you trimming Hood to fund other things like maybe SoFi and or Tesla? Oh, this is what you asked? No. Dude, I'm not selling Vlad's company to buy Elon's company. Okay? We're not doing that yet. Now, if Tesla gets to 100, I might have to sell some of Vlad's company to sell Elon's company. But to buy Elon's company. But I'm not doing that now, dude. Robinhood is in one of the best positions they could ever be in. They're executing against old fronts. That February data was fantastic. And now they have the street on their side, dude. The street was bearish on them for like 2 years, even though they kept buying their shares. They have a 91% institutional float. Bernstein saying, hey, $30, like that got a lot of people thinking, man, we should really look at Robinhood a lot more seriously. And so I think they're just in a very good position. And that's the one you would have to look deeper into. Jonathan said, who's Vlad? He's the CEO of Robinhood. By the way, speaking of buying more Palantir, I just got the Twitter check. We got $352 from Twitter for the past 2 weeks. $352. So we will be buying at least, everyone's like, are you buying more Palantir? We will be buying at least $352 of Palantir on Monday in the public fund, which is how many shares divided by 23? That's 15 shares. All right. So we'll add 15 more shares to the public fund. So we'll find money from all these different areas to buy more Palantir. Amit, would you get into Hood if you had zero position in it long term? Look, Hood to me is a very good cyclical trade. I think over the next 18 months, I'm liking it more as a actual long-term investment. The problem is if the market dips, Hood, their revenues don't necessarily do well when the market's down, right? Now they're building other products so that they don't have to worry about crypto or the stock market with the retirement stuff and everything else they're doing. Obviously cash sweep, but it is tougher when the market goes down. So I think eventually they will become one of those kind of companies that doesn't have to worry about the market activity, but right now they're in that zone where they do. And so if the answer to your question is, if you had no position in Hood, I wouldn't get into it for the long term. I would get into it with the assumption that the market is going to do very well over the next 12 months, either with interest rate cuts, crypto, and Robinhood can benefit from that. And I deeply think at $18 it's still undervalued. But for the long term, it depends, right? Because if the market takes a crap in 2025, right? Let's just say S&P falls 20%, like a real crash. Robinhood's going to take a beating. Now, all stocks are going to take a beating, but Robinhood's really not going to have the momentum because people aren't going to be trading as much. So it's one of the things you want to think about in the long term for Robinhood. But in the next 18, 24 months, markets are okay. Crypto, obviously having an event, that's going to be a big deal. Robinhood's going to benefit a lot. And then eventually, Robinhood can diversify enough their business, hopefully in the next 18 months where they don't need to worry about just the market volatility. Then, they're going to be in a good situation as well. And then it will be a more long-term investment as well. Talk about your exit strategy for Hood. You have shares and options, right? So I mainly just have options on Robinhood. I have a 2025 position and a 2026 position. The 2025 position is a spread that I don't want to sell until we get to $25 because that's a strike on it. And the 2026 position is a $20 spread between 15 and 20. So we have a long time till that expires. So at the end of the year, we'll look at where Robinhood is. 2025, obviously, we'll definitely sell because it expires January 2025. So we'll sell that in the end of the year. But 2026, we'll see if we just leave it for the next basically for the next year and just let it play out. Okay, here's Ross Gerber on what's going on with Tesla. Let's take a look at what he has to say.
Back to Trading 360. I'm Nicole Petalides live at the New York Stock Exchange. Glad you are with us, and joining me is a very special guest.
Attempts that the Fed has made to destroy the economy, it's managed to keep going strong. So, it's really kind of the best of all worlds right now with giving the Fed the ability to not have to lower interest rates because they have to. That's actually great news. So a 3% growth rate in the economy and a 3% inflation rate is actually a great economy. What's there not to like? We expect good earnings in Q1. It's not a super too hot economy, but it's certainly not too cold either.
All right, so that certainly sounds like a take, and that's good synopsis overall. I'd love to hear about some of the names that you're talking about today. I got to talk about Tesla, the worst performer in the S&P 500 this year, or among the worst performers.
Look at Ross smiling when she said Tesla, the worst performing stock. He just started laughing because he's so happy he sold out of Tesla. It's crazy, dude.
It's down 35%. And I'd love to hear your insight. I know you have talked, I guess, with Elon Musk at some point. It was a name that you liked. He's certainly smart and a visionary, but the questions are, is he distracted? Is AI going somewhere other than Tesla? And that was part of the value of Tesla, was the AI story. And is he going to separate that? We saw the launch. I saw the launch yesterday of the rocket, or maybe it was the day before. I mean, that was exciting. What's the big picture on Tesla? It's at 163 today.
Yeah, I think the big picture, which you kind of summed up pretty well, is that, a lot of things I've been saying over the last 6-7 months have finally come to fruition. I've been warning investors in Tesla for a long time about the fact that Elon Musk's lack of focus and his political stances in support of white supremacy and other very, very controversial, if not.
Whoa. All right, there you go. He's saying he supports white supremacy now.
Not just basically wrong ideas, is really turned off a core demo of consumers for Tesla and has hurt demand here in the United States. On top of, incredible levels of competition in China, and now the German, eco-terrorist issue that Tesla's facing with the shutdown of the Berlin factory and enormous cost to get it up again. This quarter is not looking great for Tesla. Meanwhile, the CEO continues to spend a majority of his time on X discussing issues that nobody at Tesla really wants to discuss. So, it's created a reevaluation. We look at the story differently now. It's not the same Tesla story as 3 years ago or 2 years ago. The way we look at it now is Tesla needs to come down to a valuation that makes sense for a company that's not growing earnings, that has issues, but yet still has this amazing long-term potential if there was some focus on building this brand, like advertising to start. So we think, 40 times this year's earnings is a fair multiple for Tesla. That brings you down to 120, and that's unfortunate. So, I hope that doesn't happen being a Tesla shareholder, but we've pared our position dramatically at our firm over the last 6 months. And I'm grateful I've done that because we reinvested those proceeds into AI investments that have paid off dramatically, and our clients have benefited greatly from this change.
120.
All right, so Ross Gerber thinks that Elon is supporting white supremacy, and dude, that's a wild, dude. That is actually wild that he said that. Chris says, don't agree with the guy, so you can call him a white supremacist. It's wild, man. Tesla made Ross. No one would know Ross Gerber without Tesla, by the way. No one would know him. So I'm not saying he has to stay loyal to them or anything. I'm just saying I don't think Elon is a white supremacist. And maybe he's tweeted things in the past that have been perceived wrongly, but I know he's apologized for that. And I don't know, dude. It just seems like a cheap shot to go after him from that perspective, especially when the stock is down. The thing about this business, the investment business, the investor fund manager business, is it's based on credibility, right? Your word is everything. If you get a stock right, or if you say sell during this time, that is what builds your brand. And I think Gerber's really happy because he was right on Tesla in 2016, 2017, whatever, when he started buying it. And I think he said publicly he's made like $250 to $300 million on it for his clients. But now on the downside, he also feels like he's vindicated because he's been saying that Elon's political / Twitter drama issues, whatever, is hurting Tesla. I would say, maybe some of the Elon tweets have hurt Tesla, but I think the bigger thing that's hurt Tesla is interest rates. And we know that. And Ross knows that. If he was intellectually honest, he would know that Tesla can't control interest rates. At the end of the day, it's Jerome Powell that's controlling Tesla right now. And it is what it is. Same thing with Enphase. So yes, maybe the tweets have turned off some investors, but that's not the reason Tesla's down from $1 trillion to $600 billion. It's because we raised interest rates the highest we've ever raised them since 2021. And wow, Enphase also down 3% today. Enphase might fall below 100 right now, 107. So for Ross to then use the Twitter acquisition as the main reason Tesla's, stuck, is it helping Tesla with the Twitter acquisition? One could argue yes, because now he has a platform to 500 million people where he can advertise Tesla kind of for free, right? He has all the followers in the world, all that stuff. But on the other end, I don't think that's the reason why Tesla's down. So Chris says, remember when Gerber was saying stuff about Palantir? Yeah, and Gerber the other day, I don't know if you guys saw him, but he someone said someone like quote tweeted Alex Karp about the Coke dealer line, and Gerber quote tweeted them, and they were like, no comment. So it was funny because I think I took a screenshot of that. Let me pull it up. I took a screenshot of that because it was so funny because it's like, dude, the stock is up significantly from when you called Alex Karp a Nazi. Now you're calling Elon Karp a Nazi. And all you have to say is no comment because, well, you really don't have any comment. You can't say anything. They've obviously done pretty well. But it's sad. It's people that try to find different ways to manipulate narratives and then ultimately, capitalize on them. This is what he said right here. He said no comment. It's sad, dude. And now he has some Palantir in the fund, by the way. He has 18,000 shares. He has it for a client, probably. He probably didn't buy it, but still, it is definitely in his fund. The other funny thing is, did I show you guys this? I don't think I showed you guys this here. Ross Gerber's fund, down 18% all time, and Palantir up 150% all time. So if he had just bought Palantir when he was calling it the worst company in the world and the devil and the Nazis, his fund would have done significantly better. Like, if your fund is performing, you can say whatever you want, frankly, because people are making money, no one cares. But I don't get how you can have such a gigantic ego when you don't have a gigantic cock. And in this game, a gigantic cock is returns. And so I think, I don't know, dude, it's weird. It's weird for him to kind of act like that with the fund not even, doing. That's why, same thing with me, Kevin, right? He got out of Tesla because he's trying to make sure that fund can go up so that he can talk his talk. Because right now, that PP fund, it's a little small PP right now. It's a little bit smaller. Speaking of Tesla, let's get another update on them. Do we want to do Tesla? Oh, let's do that. Let's do the TikTok update. Let's do TikTok. So let's see what we have on TikTok. Obviously, that bill might get passed soon. Let's get an update on that, and then we'll keep going on. Here we go.
Reportedly signaling that it will not allow a forced sale of TikTok as the bill now heads for a showdown in the Senate. Deirdre Bosa taking a look at how that ban might shake out for today's Tech Check. What are you hearing, Deirdre?
Well, so it's certainly not implausible that the Chinese government might rather see TikTok fail than in the hands of an American consortium. So even if a buyer got together the financing to do a deal, Beijing, I'm hearing extremely unlikely to let go of the source code. And that is what makes TikTok TikTok. It's secret sauce. A lot of the discussions I've been having here in San Francisco, they center around this idea of whether the algorithm could even be replicated. If you fork off the US business, is there enough there for another group of top-tier AI data scientists to come in and rebuild? That would be extremely challenging, though. There are unique reasons that TikTok has captured 170 million users here in the US. It was developed in China, a country that plays by different rules. They built out their internet in a very different way, and they have a totally different view of privacy. So it might look entirely different if it was built here. Now, overnight in Beijing, China's Ministry of Commerce, they seem to double down on the idea that it wouldn't just let TikTok be bought, saying that the relevant parties should strictly abide by Chinese laws and regulations. Let's talk about those regulations because they could stop a sale. Back in 2020, when we were first here talking about a potential sale during the Trump administration, the communist government added content recommendation algorithms, that's what drives TikTok, to an export control list, plus a ban of Chinese technology in the US. It has not been a death knell for those companies in the past. Let's take the example of Huawei. 2019, the US restricted sales of its networking equipment and its access to Google technology. That absolutely crushed Huawei's smartphone business at the time. But look at where we are now, less than 5 years later. With the help of Beijing, Huawei has a new homegrown smartphone and its own operating system that is challenging Apple's dominance in China. So the Chinese have a lot of technological prowess in a different sense that we may not necessarily have. And you could see them thinking of this Huawei example when they're thinking about whether they let TikTok go or let it flounder for a while and try and rebuild somehow.
It's actually a good point she's making here because Huawei, we banned the crap out of it back in like 2019 particularly the 5G towers they were trying to build, we'd like completely shut it down. And it went back to Beijing. It lost market share to the tune of like 80% for smartphones. And it started to pick up end of 2022, early 2020, or no, mid 2023. I remember. I was looking at, let me try to see if I can pull up the article, but I remember reading about this. So she's right on this. And that's because the Beijing government really helped. You know that report that said Chinese officials aren't allowed to have an iPhone? I think that came out like 6 months ago. That was when a lot of people started looking deeper into Huawei, and it didn't end up happening, that bill, but that was kind of a way to show Beijing was supporting Huawei. And they were starting to have those increase in terms of their market share, which is obviously really good. Yeah, Huawei accounted for about 10%. And in China, that number started to go higher to closer to, I believe, 15%. Now, in 2020, it was 9. Well, so yeah, 2020, it was a little bit lower. 2017, it was 3.39%. I'm going to try to get the exact statistics. But the point is, Apple, obviously, not being able to get the same benefits they had over the past 10 years, China started to help Huawei. Now, the thing is, if we ban TikTok, and China just gets rid of TikTok, I'm really curious what implications will that have on the broader market for not only social media, but for how China treats the United States. I think that's a really, really important kind of way to think about it. October 2023, Huawei's China smartphone sales surged as Apple declined. So 6 months ago, that's what I was thinking about. Their shares counterpoints that Huawei recorded a 37% year-over-year increase in smartphone sales in the quarter thanks to the Mate 60 launch, while they noticed that Apple's share started to decline. So as early as October 2023, Huawei started to get a lot more benefits, and it's not a coinky dink that Apple, when they released the iPhone 15 in October, they did not see the level of sales that they saw over the previous years. You've got Huawei gaining more momentum. And I think, that's another reason why Elon also doesn't talk that bad about China. And I love Elon, and I just defended Elon against Ross. You heard that 10 minutes ago. But Elon tends not to say bad things about China. And I don't even blame him, dude, because he knows that he could say something one day that pisses them off. China's 25% of the market. He says something dumb or says something like, he'll say some crazy shit about everything in the world. But he knows he cannot just go crazy about China, because if they ban Tesla, which I think Xi Jinping could wake up one day in a second and say, screw China. We have BYD. We have all these, he does not care about Elon. I'm sure they want a good relationship with him, but they have no hesitation to, get rid of him. Then Tesla stock is going to like $50, dude. If China gets rid of Tesla, that's 25% of their sales. They had a price cut in China the other day and the market got upset. Imagine they're not in China anymore because Elon, and I think that's an inevitability. If Elon actually started to get on the offensive around China and the Uyghurs and all that stuff, which he will not do because he's smarter than that. If he did do that, Tesla's screwed. Tesla's absolutely screwed. That's when you're in a really tough situation. But outside of that, I think he can say whatever he wants and he'll be fine. So China plays a heavy hand. This is why also Elon's against the TikTok bill. I think for two reasons. Number one, he's against the TikTok bill because he needs to publicly kind of be against something bad against China. I think in general, that's just good business. But number two, I also think he realizes that if they ban TikTok, they might try to ban X. I don't think they're going to go that far to ban X. At the end of the day, it's an American company. Maybe they try to go that far. But TikTok does seem more national security based. And so those are his kind of two concerns as well. The Senate is going to punt on TikTok. Yeah, I don't think the Senate's going to be able to ban it, dude. I don't think they have enough votes to do it. But in general, Elon, even on Joe Rogan, do you guys remember when Joe Rogan asked him about China? He answered it for 2 seconds and quickly changed the topic. You can't even blame him, dude. He has to strategically position the company, and that means you don't talk shit about one of your biggest markets, right? You just don't do that. It's if you're a businessman, you make sure your biggest customers don't feel badly about you. Now, granted, Elon in the United States will politically, be polarizing, but the United States is the United States. China is a whole different market that he just can't get upset. Snapchat right here, 1120. MicroStrategy down about 2% right now. Bay Ray says, Enphase, are you excited about that or interested in that? I am not. I don't think anyone is that excited about Enphase, dude. Oh, this is what I was going to show you. Speaking of Enphase, I showed you it already, but for the people that didn't see it, Meet Kevin sold out of all of his Enphase in Tesla. And it was really surprising to me because Enphase was a stock that was like his stock, you know, like it's the one that he really, really loved. So for him to sell out of Enphase at 120, I think he really is starting to get scared that interest rates are going to be higher for longer, or at least high for longer, and that Tesla and Enphase are screwed. And it's kind of crazy. I got to give Chris his praise here, because since, you know, $250-$300, Chris was saying interest rates are not going to be good for Enphase. And it seems like we're finally seeing how bad it is for Enphase. Also, remember when Enphase popped to 130, and on the market open, I was like, Enphase does not deserve to be at 130. Their guidance is absolute dog shit. They're guiding for $275 million of revenue. This is a company that was doing $850 million 5 quarters ago. There's no reason the street should have them up almost 15%. Well, it's at 107 now. If it's probably going to get closer to that 100 level if the interest rates obviously continue to stay higher. I think that Enphase pump was a weird pump. It made no sense to me. It was an irrational pump, and maybe there was a good time to take profits there, because that guidance deserved Enphase to come down to 100. Like SolarEdge came down, right? So Enphase, I think, should have came down as well. They both are not going to benefit from this. People are like, oh, it's bottoming. Dude, forget that. It's not like, I don't care how good Badri sounds. He can't get his way out of a bad interest rate cycle. Kind of like Karp, when, you know, when the stock was $7-8, no matter what Karp said on those calls, he couldn't find a way out of the fact that interest rates are rising precipitously, and their business that was benefiting off of zero interest rates was not going to benefit off zero interest rates. And then obviously they pivoted the company to GAAP profitability. But like, Badri can't say that we're going to expand in India and Europe, even if rates are high. It's like, dude, if rates are high, your biggest markets are not going to be able to afford your product. It is what it is. And so I think Enphase might be in a tougher situation. Mead Kevin closed his short on Tesla after a 50% gain in today. That's fine. I did see that. The problem is he buying back Tesla? Like, sure, he made 50% on his short. That's fine. But I want to know, are you actually buying back Tesla in the PP fund? Because until he buys back Tesla, he thinks this thing's headed to like 120, 130. So to me, it's more of a question of when he actually buys back in. Canada also just got rid of a federal grant for solar and other energy upgrades. Yeah, dude, solar's in a tough spot. Even my dad the other day, I think he was thinking about solar, but like, he's not actually going to go through with it because it's a long process. Like, we've had solar people come to our house, and they're like, I even asked one of the solar guys that came to my house like 5 months ago, like, do you know about Enphase and microinverters and all this stuff? And this guy was like a total sales dude. He had no idea what the fuck a microinverter, which I was confused. I was just like, how do you not know what microinverters are? But he was like, yeah, I don't know what that is. So he was like just selling solar. He did not know the intricacies of it. But I mean, my dad does not care that much about it. He's not willing to go through the work. Interest rates are at 7% for this stuff. It's like the average American is not in the position right now with interest rates this high and inflation still being an issue to get solar on their house, much less buy a Tesla, right? That's a little bit more of an expensive vehicle. So for those two companies, it's in a tough spot. So that's what we have going on right now with Tesla and Enphase. China can't afford to ban Tesla, though. They need to steal those secrets somehow. I don't think it's about affording to ban Tesla. China's economy is absolutely in the dumps. And so I agree with you. They can't afford to lose Tesla. That's a big company for them. But I don't think they care. I think they'll do whatever they want. Like, I legitimately think Xi Jinping will just do whatever he needs to do in order to reign supreme, which is kind of the bull case for them invading Taiwan. Bull case meaning the reason they would invade Taiwan is because even if the economy sucks, that'll be a way to create national unity. I don't think he cares enough. I mean, look, if they were willing to destroy the biggest tech company in China, aka Alibaba, and tank that sucker from 350 to 73 and basically lock Jack Ma in a dungeon for 2 months so that no one could see him, they would be willing to get rid of Tesla, in my opinion. If they did that to their own company, they would absolutely do that to Elon's company. And that's why Elon doesn't talk wild about Tesla ever, or about China. Like, he just does not talk about China in a bad way. And I think it's because he knows, like, at the end of the day, he knows he doesn't want to piss them off, which makes sense. I want to see if I can find that clip, Elon, China, Joe Rogan, and see if he actually talks about them. Does he have this one? Okay, we have a couple of YouTube shorts. Let's see if any of these are any good stuff. Let's see what he says. Let's see. Here we go.
Do you think that the initial thought was a good idea based on the perception that this was going to be far more deadly than it turned out to be?
Briefly.
Well,
Well,
80% of the people they put on ventilators died.
Yeah, COVID. I was actually in South Texas building this Starship factory. Yeah, no mask, no nothing, just building a factory, building rockets. You would have teams from California visit, all masked up. They'd freak out that we don't have masks, and we're like, we're still alive, man.
Did you lose anybody? Did anybody from? So when you're saying that China
Okay, I think this is the China one, the more specific one.
Has 10 years to go
at most.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we now know that they've lied about the.
Okay, so that's not the one. There was a specific one I'm looking for, guys. A specific one I'm looking for where Elon's talking, or at least Joe Rogan asks him about China, and he kind of just avoids it. I'll see if I can find it later, but yeah, I mean, ultimately he tries not to talk too crazy about about China, which I get, I understand. China supports Tesla as a way of showing a U.S. company is better off in China instead of the U.S. Yes, but I don't think if Elon starts talking crazy, I don't think they're going to care, dude. Like Elon Musk comes out tomorrow and tweets, Xi Jinping needs to be more democratic. The Chinese people do not have enough freedoms, and TikTok is a cancer to American democracy. He says those three things, which I'm sure he believes all three of them, and he voices every other freaking opinion he has. If he says those three things on Twitter tomorrow, Tesla is not going to be in a good situation, dude, which is why he's not going to do it. Which is okay. I mean, it is what it's understandable. And for Tesla shareholders, I think we all hope that he doesn't do it. Dylan says, so the difference in Robinhood up when SoFi can't grow legs, does that speak to a larger banking landscape for the banking industries? The reason Robinhood is up and SoFi is down is because SoFi is a bank and there's particular risks around credit and delinquencies and lending. Robinhood is a brokerage that has momentum behind it, and the catalysts around crypto and interest rates falling help trading revenues. So it's that simple. I honestly think Robinhood and SoFi are not that comparable. SoFi is just a bank. Robinhood is not a bank. But when people have asked Vlad, hey, do you want to become a bank? And Vlad's like, no, like, well, there's too much regulations with being a bank. We just want to like be a brokerage. So Robinhood's acting like a bank for me, right? All my money doesn't go to Bank of America. It goes to Robinhood, and I get 5% on that. You know, because why would I leave it in Bank of America? Bank of America keeps mentioning, oh, your account balance is low. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, it's low because I'm not giving you the money. I want 5% on it. That's why it's low. Whereas SoFi is more of a lending company, right? So I just think they're two different businesses, and SoFi doesn't have enough catalysts right now. If it wasn't for Tesla, China wouldn't be where it is today with EVs. That is true. And now China has tons of competitors to Elon, BYD being the biggest. So if Elon acts crazy, I don't think China would hesitate to nuke Tesla and just say, all right, no, we're just going to let BYD sell what they want to sell. Don't confuse Tesla with Taiwan. Xi might entertain occupying Taiwan if Trump is elected because he knows Trump is spineless. China's economy will completely collapse without the U.S. Look, I agree with you. I agree. China will collapse without the United States. However, I think China and Xi Jinping is willing to let his economy collapse. I mean, first of all, it's already collapsing. Like it's already in absolutely horrible situations. And I would imagine that if I don't think they would care if it goes down even further. Because the question is, the only reason a politician cares if their economy is collapsing is if people will revolt against the empire, right? Like so if the economy is collapsing and everyone's really upset, then you really want to do stuff to fix it because you don't want people to like literally overthrow you. But in China, every time people have tried to overthrow the government has just been more powerful to not let that happen. And I think they would think, well, we're just going to make sure people don't revolt. And if that's the case, then we're going to have full control over people at the end of the day. But it's gonna be really interesting to see how it plays out because the U.S. needs to make sure whatever president that gets elected, we have good relationship with China. And this TikTok thing, this is not going to create really good relationships with China. We need China too. Yeah. And that's why, companies are looking at Mexico and India in particular, to try to get off of the Chinese drugs that we're on right now, which is their manufacturing. But it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to get off that anytime soon, at least. How would stocks react to peace between Russia and Ukraine? I think stocks would go up. I think stocks would be very happy. Granted, I don't think Russia-Ukraine has been that big of an issue for stocks anymore. It's been a while since we've had to worry about that. But hopefully, eventually they start to be in a better situation. Speaking of China, let's get a little update on them and let's see. Here's a clip on what issues are going on currently in China.
What exactly is going on here? Let's talk about it all with somebody who knows a thing or two about China and markets. That is famed hedge fund manager Kyle Bass, founder and chief investment officer of Heyman Capital Management. Kyle, I mean, we knew things were bad. Evergrande, the biggest property developer in the world, liquidate, didn't go, went bankrupt and now is liquidated. But when we see indexes fall 8% in a day, something's up.
Actually, something's down, but good to see you, Brian.
I left the door right open on that one.
Yeah, you did. This time it wasn't a revolving door, which is better for you, and maybe we'll get to that one day. But I think that when you have a scenario like Evergrande and Country Garden together have $500 billion worth of debt. Two companies have $500 billion. Every single property developer in China that's public or listed is in default, bankruptcy today. When the Chinese miracle, and I put the miracle in quotes, when the Chinese miracle was running its course, it was all real estate focused. Let's say all. The substantial majority of Chinese GDP growth was real estate and the concentric circles that surround real estate. And now you're having a reversal after an unregulated and unabated climb in real estate. Now you're seeing a real estate collapse. So this is just like the US financial crisis on steroids. They have 3.5 times more banking leverage than we did going into the crisis. And they've only been at this banking thing for a couple of decades, Brian. China is going to get much worse, no matter how much their regulators say we're going to protect individuals from malicious short selling. Imagine regulators blaming a 15-year swoon on their stock market on short sellers. It's just, it's hilarious.
Well, I think politicians
those short sellers are not high on coke if you're shorting China.
Everywhere have that in common. They got to find something easy to blame. But I want to go back to your point, okay? Because a lot of our audience, very smart, probably the smartest audience out there, may not fully comprehend how big Country Garden and Evergrande are or were. They're not household names here. $500 billion in debt is probably, and I'm going to guess, more debt than the entire Dow 30 has combined, something like that. China's economy, to your point, has really been about one thing, and that is real estate. It is not low-cost exports. Sure, they make a lot of money in that too, but real estate, trading off it, flipping it, I mean, it all sounds very familiar to something you're very familiar with, 2007 in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, the leverage in their system is about 3.5 times or 350% greater than the leverage in our system was. And we've been at capital markets for well over 150 years, and look at how bad we screwed it up. The architecture, the basic architecture of the Chinese economy is broken. And it's broken because it was real estate centric. And 70% of Chinese individual assets are in real estate. And real estate's down, we don't know what the number is, nobody knows, down 25, 30, 40%.
Now, this is a really big point. What he just said is 70% of Chinese residents' net worth, or part of their, or majority of their net worth, is in real estate. They've built the entire index of the country. As you can see, Hang Seng index down 28% since 2018 on the backs of real estate. America has built it on the backs of technology companies, Amazon, Google, etc. That's why Karp keeps saying technology is our greatest asset. And obviously tech companies have done much better than just real estate.
And the banking system has, 30, 40% exposure and 3.5 times more leverage. So you can do all this math and realize China's in real trouble. Xi Jinping announced over the weekend that he wants to make talking about China's economy in a negative way, a national security issue. So he started wiping websites clean of negative economic data about China. I mean, when you start pointing at short sellers and eliminating data online, you know how bad it is over there. And he's in a real trouble. And back to comparing 500 billion and trying to understand the size. In the global financial crisis, the US banking system lost about $800 billion, and we re-equitized it with common and preferred securities, injections of capital. We're talking about $500 billion worth of losses, or almost that much, in two companies, and all the rest of the developers in bankruptcy. And we haven't even talked about their banks yet. We're just talking about two companies losing $500 billion. Their local government marketplace, local government debt marketplace, is a $13 trillion equivalent marketplace, and they sell real estate to Chinese developers to pay their bills in the local government. Well, guess what? That's not happening either. And those local governments are all defaulting now.
Yeah.
I mean, it is quite literally, China had 20 plates spinning and all the plates are crashing right now.
China's not in a good spot, dude. I didn't actually know that stat. 500 billion they lost in 2 companies, and the U.S. in 2008 lost 800 billion in general, which is why we had stimulus and capital injections, and basically we bailed out the some of the automotive companies. So, I mean, that's not good. And then you got the majority of Chinese middle class folks having their net worth in real estate. That's not good either. There's a lot of ghost towns and ghost cities in China. If you look at some of the stuff that Wall Street Journal did a really good piece on that a while ago as well, about the ghost cities in China, that they have all these apartment buildings that were built in like the 1990s, early 2000s, and now they're unoccupied. America built our basic, I would say, bull run since 2010. We've kind of been in a bull run since 2010. We've had some dips here and there, but like we haven't had something like 2008 happen other than COVID, which was, a global thing, off the back of tech. If we didn't have Facebook or Google or Amazon or Netflix or Nvidia being started in the United States, we would not have the trillions and trillions of dollars of prosperity we have in this country. But technology we saw was our best advantage. And that's why Karp constantly says, hey, we need to bet on software. We need to bet on tech. That's what we're good at. Real estate doesn't appreciate as fast as a tech company can. I mean, a tech company has infinite scale. You can create one product, ChatGPT, and it can scale to hundreds of millions of people in seconds. The reason I think China cares so much about a TikTok is because TikTok was the one product China finally created that actually spread like wildfire, right? China never had a real tech product that could completely dominate the planet, and TikTok was the one. And now the US wants to get rid of it, and China's like, well, this is the only real tech product we have that's taken over the world. We're not going to let you get rid of it. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next few months around what happens with TikTok and the implications on China. So we will see. Yeah, a lot of people are saying in the chat that they've heard about the ghost cities with China. Dylan says, if I could go back to the early 2000s and buy Amazon or Google stock every 2 weeks instead of the new Jordans, I would. Well, I would have a lot more money and probably the same, if not more, shoes. That's why when people were saying last night, oh, Amit, you got to buy, or Chris was like, you got to buy the on sneakers, on cloud, whatever, for $200. I was like, dude, I will die before I spend $200 on some fucking sneakers. You're out of your mind. I'll go to the sneaker store. I'll do my DD by putting them on and walking in them, but I'm not actually buying those sneakers. I don't think I've really bought sneakers, dude, since like 2018. Like, I think I got a pair of Air Forces for like $99 in 2018 that I still have that are pretty dirty. So I should get a new pair of sneakers. But I have some running shoes that I got for like $60 like a year ago, and I've been using those. I'm looking at them right now. They're Asics. So those are the ones I use. Molov says, one child policy really hurt China. Our suppliers have a hard time getting workers because the boys felt too special to do actual work. They needed robots more than we do. That's another thing. The robotics movement in China, there's a ton of robotics companies working on those as well. And so, we're going to see a lot more robotics momentum probably in China because they need the workers as well. You're just always wearing sandals? Yes, always. Always wearing the Shah Rukh Khan 5000 chupples. Know what I'm talking about? These bad boys are legit, dude. Like I will go outside in the snow and fucking wear these things, dude. It is what it is. It's easy. It is what it is. All right. So that's it for me. That's the end of the market close, end of the entire week. Been a fun week, been an exciting week. Obviously, Robinhood had a good week. Bitcoin erased all of their gains this week, but I think they'll come back, after it. But it did hit all-time highs, which is awesome. And then Tesla, not the best week. Right now, Robinhood 18.15 after hours. Palantir 23.52, up 0.13% after hours. The fact that Palantir even hit 27.50 last week, I think is really good. And, we'll see where it goes from there over the next week. So any fun plans this weekend? No, none for me. I'm actually, you know what I'm going to try to do, guys, this weekend? I'm going to legitimately try to change the set because the background sucks. And so I'm going to actually see if I can dedicate my Saturday to making this look cool. I don't know if I can, but we'll see. So I want to do that. And then NVIDIA GTC conference on Monday. We'll cover that. And then Palantir Weekly. I think we're doing it tonight. I know Vince can't make it, but I'm pretty sure we're still doing it. So I'll be here tonight and we'll do Palantir Weekly. And that's it. That's it. So are we not getting the debate between you and Gil? Dude, I told him to message me. I said, yo, DM me on Twitter. He hasn't DM'd me. It's obviously he was just trolling. He didn't want to actually debate. But I'm down to debate. I'll debate him. I don't care. If he messages me, we'll do it. All right, that's it for me. GTC, I think it's going to be GTC event NVIDIA. I think it's going to be 12 p.m. on Monday. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be 12 p.m. and I should be able to live stream it. Yeah, so we'll live stream it there and we'll keep going from there. And that's it. That's it. You should make a wood wall for a change. These are real bricks. I can't take off the bricks just for wood, June. Like, you know what I'm saying? It took a lot of hard work to build these bricks. You guys don't realize how much work it took in to build these bricks. It took a lifetime of work that I condensed in 3 hours because I'm just that elite. And I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it. So Amit, going to the sushi palace tonight? No, I'm probably not getting sushi. I don't know what I'm eating for dinner tonight. But I hope everyone has a good dinner. Hope everyone has a good day. Hope everyone has a good weekend. Enjoy, have fun. Maybe I'll stream on Saturday night. I always say I'm going to stream on Saturday night, and then Saturday night comes and I never end up streaming. So we'll see. Saturdays are just the days that I kind of just like don't do anything when it comes to YouTube on Saturday. But we will Sunday. I'll be streaming with Jose, and we'll cover the NVIDIA event before Monday. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Eric says those are real misaligned bricks. If you take the word misaligned out of your sentence, and you just say those are real bricks, that would be a much better sentence. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday morning. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.